on this big story. Now, in a span of a week, 2 Indian students have been found killed in Canada. The most recent case involves a fatal shooting of 20-year-old Indian doctoral student Shivank Avasthi near the University of Toronto Scarborough campus. Earlier, an incident involving a 30-year-old digital creator Himanshi Khurana had also taken place. Police believe that was a case of intimate partner violence, with the prime suspect being a partner. Police say the two incidents are not connected, yet they have triggered concern amongst the Indian community about the safety of international students. Well, Toronto Police Service is actively investigating both as homicides. Of course, right now, the Consulate General of India in Toronto has also issued statements expressing deep anguish and shock for both victims. Sushil Shingal, former diplomat, is live with us. Mithun Vijay Kumar, author and activist, joins us live. Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian, is with us on the broadcast. Patikrit Payan, foreign affairs expert, also is live on the broadcast. Sushil, let me start with you first. Sushil Shingal, former diplomat. Ambassador Shingal, how concerned are you with these latest cases coming to light from Canada, and how can we raise this at the appropriate fora through our Ministry of External Affairs?
Well, this is very unfortunate that, 2 cases in 2 days. Of course, the police is saying that, they are unrelated. But, when you look at the historically, last few months, there's a lot of, violence against Indian origin people. Of course, most of the time, except one case, I think, where it was said that, racially related violence. But most of the cases, the Canadian police has always been saying that these are unrelated event, and because of the, increase in the crime, these are happening, and the Indian happens to be there. Of course, the in the case of Himanshi Khurana, they're saying that, of course, this is a different case altogether, and they have already identified the person who is said to be responsible. But like the ministry also is talking about that, the people in Canada are feeling unsafe, particularly, under the previous government, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The kind of, statements he was making and kind of support he was giving to different kind of elements. And we have also seen some reports, that attack on the Indians' property which has taken place in Canada. It clearly shows that there is some, maybe, evidence is not there, but as an outsider, we see that there is some pattern in violence against Indian and Indian origin people. So the government of Canada has to take, has to recognize that as a factor, because there are a lot of Indian origin people who are now Canadian citizens, and it is a responsibility of the government of Canada to take measures to ensure that they all feel secure. As far as the Ministry of External Affairs is concerned, they are all, whenever there is this kind of incident, they always get in touch. Our mission also have discussions with the Canadian side, and the new government, we find noticed that it's.
All right, I think we've lost you there. Mithun Vijay Kumar, why don't you come in here? Mithun Vijay Kumar, do you see a pattern here in these incidents involving our Indian community in Canada?
See, Uday, if you look at the facts, from just this 1 week in Toronto, on one hand, we have Himanshi Khurana, a young woman building her career. On the other hand, we have Shivank, a brilliant doctoral student. The kind of, mind that is the pride of Bharat, both are gone, both murdered within 7 days in the same city. If this happened anywhere else, Uday, the world would call it a failed state. But when it happens in Canada, they call it an unfortunate incident. And it's not an incident, it's a collapse of a system. And, and think about the irony. The Canadian government loves to sit on a high chair and give lectures to the entire world about human rights. They talk about rules and global order every single day. But what about the basic human right, the right to live? Canadians take, billions of dollars in fees from our students. They use our doctors and engineers to run their economy. But when it comes to keeping them alive, Canada has no answers. If a student is not safe, walking near his own university, their rules are useless. If a woman is not safe in her own home, then their lectures are just a sham. So Here was a 20-year-old boy, a doctoral student. He was, a very, very bright student. He was walking near his campus. He wasn't a criminal. He was a scholar. He was killed in broad daylight, and the killer simply walked away. And why wasn't the mighty Canadian security system there to protect him? And look at the case of the woman. She was murdered, and the prime suspect Abdul Ghafoori, he is still out there. So this is the definition of selective sovereignty. So when it comes to protecting their own political interests or sheltering people that India has flagged as threats, the Canadian police, they are suddenly very active. But when it comes to the safety of an Indian student or a professional, their system becomes slow. It becomes invisible, almost invisible. So Canada cannot claim to be a country with a rule of law. If the law works only for their political vote bank, but fails to protect the people who actually contribute to running their system. And Canada has mastered the art of diplomatic posting. We know that they are world champions at making speeches and acting superior, but they are failing at basic policing. A country that can track every cent of the student's bank account for visa, but cannot track a murderer on its own streets, is a country that has its own priorities which are completely wrong. So that's something I would like to make say at this point over there.
Joyita Basu, let me quickly draw you in here. What makes this worse, Joyita, is the fact that there is no arrest of suspects yet, which questions, of course, the seriousness and the administration there. Anyways, the law and order, there is a big question mark over that. Is Canada safe for Indians anymore, Joyita?
Well, Uday, it is not just a question of Canada. If you look at it, it's happening in the US also. Because you see, I mean, in the West in particular, there are these supremacists who are actually actively, I would say, inciting violence against Indians. And I would say that it wouldn't be a mistake to see this, to see these killings as part of a broader trend against Indians who are seen as prosperous achievers, higher earning. So what we are witnessing is that there is this trend. I was in fact just reading on X one particular guy, and this is why his name is some Matt Forney or something like that. He is saying 2026 is going to see a complete unleashing of violence against Indians. He is talking specifically of the US, and he is saying that it is not the white population that will be coming after Indians, but it will be the Muslims, the blacks, the Latinos who will be coming after the Indians, and they will be butchered, they will be murdered, there will be arson. So it is, so the sole reason why, to stop violence from happening in Western society, Indians should be deported. And this guy is an influencer, influencer, MAGA influencer. So you see, this mindset is very much there, that they would rather be with murderers and criminals than allow Indians who are the, I would say, the most, the community, the most peaceful community in the West. They would rather have them deported because they are primarily because they are successful. What we are witnessing, it is not just, as I said, it is not just about Canada, it is happening all over the West. It's happening in Ireland, it's happening in England, it's happening in the many European countries, it's happening in the US, it's of course happening in Canada. So what we have to be, this has to basically, and this is being allowed to happen primarily for vote bank reasons, what we call. This is happening, being allowed to happen in the US because of vote bank reasons. Well, of course, Canada has a different prime minister now, but it seems even his coming has not made things safe for Indians. So basically, I mean, Indians, but at the same time, what really is appalling and disappointing, and I would say even appalling, is that in spite of being such high earning members of Western society, in spite of being such well established people in these Western societies, they don't have any clout. This is something I find absolutely amazing, that in Canada, which has so many Indians, they don't have the clout to make the government work against these killers. They do not have the clout to protect the Indian community, and the same applies to the US. Where is the clout? What are you doing about your people on the ground? You are doing nothing. And these are the students and all, they pay a price for this. I mean, this is something that really shocks me, that we are being told that NRIs are this and that, but in reality, what are they? Where are they? They are nowhere.
Absolutely. Let me, in fact, go back across to you then, Ambassador Shingal. Is this a pattern you believe in Canada, or worryingly, of course, across the West, as Joyita was just pointing out? And what, if so, what is causing this pattern? Or do you believe it's not a pattern and these are not connected?
Well, there is I mean, I completely agree. There is a pattern. This the rightist uprising, I would say, if you can use the term. This because they are in when you look at the Western countries, be it in Europe or be it in America or Canada, or for that matter, even Australia. Whenever we see that they are so-called developed countries, barring a few, everywhere there is a rise in the rightist group or white supremacy groups. And Indians, because they are successful, they become an easy target. They are law abiding and they are successful. So they have become the group which is envied by all. And they become an easy target because they don't indulge, they are, as I said, law abiding, and they don't indulge in any antisocial activities. So this also is a factor which makes Indians or Indian origin people an easy target for these groups, because they feel threatened with the success of Indians. And it is the response. On then there is a vote politics also is playing, as we see in the what is happening in US, what kind of elements are being encouraged. Similarly, we see in Canada or in Ireland, the governments there are soft pedaling for the vote politics. So, and that is why there is a demand. There is a demand for anti-immigration, and all kind of demands are being made. So this is the situation which the world is facing. I would say that globally we are facing. Everybody is facing this problem. So this one has to raise voice of the government of India, of course, is engaging with them, talking to them. But this is a reality in which we are living today. Even in fact, in Canada, there's one more incident which happened, that there was a gentleman, the guy who was waiting for the medical attention for 8 hours and he died.
Yes, we've covered that. We covered that earlier today. Yes.
Yeah. So this shows a pattern, the apathy, if I can use the term. And of course, the government of India, Ministry of External Affairs has today just issued a statement for that, and they have called on the.
Is this
Canadian
something that needs to be? Is this something that needs to be raised more aggressively by our missions abroad, Mithun Vijay Kumar?
Uday, definitely this is an issue that India should, discuss at the highest forums. If you remember, last year we were discussing about, the trend where, Indian homes in London were being systematically targeted. And we were discussing about, gangs moving through these suburbs and picking on Indian households. And then the same question was asked, like, why can't a global power like UK protect the homes of its law-abiding residents? And now the discussion has moved from London to Toronto, where in just 7 days, two of our brightest minds have been brutally murdered. And this is not just a crime, it is just the result of an ecosystem of hatred that has been allowed to breathe and grow in the West. And like Joyita mentioned, an influencer on X who openly talks about killing Indians. Think about that. In a world where the West actually lectures us on online safety, hate speech, these radicals are allowed to post threats against an entire nationality. Why is their freedom of speech always used as a license to target Indians? So this is a question that we should be asking, and we should take this up in the highest forums possible, and do something against the hatred that is growing in the West over a period of time now. And let us call what it is. It's a toxic mix of jihadist radicalism and anti-India hatred, and we are seeing a jihad of narratives and violence. And while Canada and UK are giving shelter to those who want to break India, like the Khalistani radicals or the extremist elements, they're failing to protect the very people who actually build their countries. And Indian professionals pay the highest taxes. Our students pay the highest fees. We are the model minority that follows every rule. Yet we are the ones who are being targeted. So India has to, do something about it. And for years, the Canadian leadership has played a dangerous game to win a few seats in their parliament. They have opened the doors to people who do not care about Canada, who certainly do not care about peace. And they have allowed groups to promote the, Khalistan agenda or any other jihadist agenda to operate freely on their soil. And these are the groups that openly celebrate the murder of, Indians and threaten our diplomats. In any country, any other country, it would be called promoting terrorism. But in Canada, they call it freedom of speech. And look at the result of this leniency. When you allow hate to be preached in your community centers, when you allow radicalism to be funded through your systems, you create a lawless environment. And that's happening in the West, especially in countries like Canada and all. So this is exactly why we see the tragic deaths of people like, Himanshi Khurana and Shivank. And when a government is soft on extremists, the street criminals and murderers, they also become bold. And this is what we are seeing now, Uday.
You believe this is a pattern, Joyita. Then what is causing this pattern? What do you read between the lines into why these incidents are increasing with every passing day?
One word for it is jealousy. They are jealous of the success of Indians, and this is what is, because Indians in general are hardworking, and especially those who have succeeded in the West. As it is being mentioned in this program also, and we also know for a fact that Indians are among the highest earning communities in the West, particularly in Canada, be it in the US, be it in the UK. So what happens when you have a group of people who think that they are privileged just because of their skin color, all right, just because of that, and they do not find any openings when they see this particular community, particular group of minorities, they are doing so well, what comes first to their mind? It is jealousy. And so automatically nowadays, if you are looking at Canada and the US in particular, I mean, what is the percentage of Indians? It's just maybe in the US it's 1.5, in Canada also it's pretty low. So the whole thing is that when they see all the ills are blamed on this particular group. And that is what is happening in Canada, and in these are the white supremacist Canada first, then USA first, America first. These are the groups what call themselves gripers, white. They only go for this, you have to get rid of brown people, you have to get rid of Indians, and obviously a lot of instigation and money is being poured into this by China, much of it through Pakistan. The online hatred you see that is going on, and sometimes it spills over, and it is gradually starting to spill over offline as well, as a result of which there this feeling that is growing is that, you see what the Trump administration is doing. The feeling that is going is that, you see, you can be violent, you can perpetrate violence against Indians, I will get away with it. It is normalization of violence, and it is being encouraged, in particular in the case of the USA, by the administration, by deciding to turn a blind eye towards whatever is going on. So as a result of which, as I said, this has been normalized in Canada by Justin Trudeau. I mean, this Carney fellow who is now the Prime Minister, he has a long way to go before, basically, let's put it this way, the horse has bolted. There is no point shutting the doors of the stable after the horse has bolted, and the horse has bolted in this case.
Yes, Ambassador Shikul, I'll leave the last word to you. On the road ahead, what does it look like? What can we do more for our diaspora?
Well, what we have to do is, I think, to create more awareness, and we have to make strong voice. And our diaspora has to become united, because, in our diaspora also there are various different groups. I will not name that, but we are different groups. We have to join forces together. And if we become a united force, we become united, then it becomes easy to handle the situation, because the way the economic condition, ultimately is a product of the economic condition. All these developed countries are having economic crisis. And then suddenly people see the island of prosperity, which is hard work done by Indian origin people. So as rightly mentioned, it's a lot of jealousy. So to protect themselves, they have to become first of all, political force, so that no government can ignore them. Secondly, they have to become united for that. So it is very important. Of course, the government of India has to take a stand, and I'm sure that they are taking a stand regularly because there are conversations. Unfortunately, in case of Canada, if I can use the term, actually it has sort of become institutionalized by the Justin Trudeau. He changed the reports just to gain political advantages. So this institutionalization has to be fought by the Indian origin people as well as their government, and of course the government of India is has to regularly raise with the because we have anti-terrorist dialogues, conversations on these kind of issues. So there, I'm sure they would be raising privately, but I think some public voice also need to be raised about it so that Indian origin people, they feel protected.
My thanks to all of our guests for joining us on the broadcast. It's time for a very short break.
A Wires l'histoire.